The life and times of Irish showband legend Art Supple, sponsored by the 5 Mile Inn Bar and Restaurant, 5 Mile Bridge, Kinsale Road, County Cork. I'm delighted to welcome to Hot Country a showband legend, an Irish showband legend, and his name is Art Supple. Art, you're very, very welcome to the show.
Thank you, Hugh. It's a great pleasure to be here.
Art, where were you born?
I was born in Youghal, East Cork, and 2 sisters. I didn't have a brother, and we lived on a farm in East Cork, and that's where we started from.
Where did it all start for you in the music business?
I suppose I was always interested in music, even as a kid. You know, going to school, we had a great school teacher, Miss Glavin was her name, and she was a great lady to try and bring talent forward. You know, and she always encouraged us to, you know, explore our abilities, I suppose. And she was a great lady, helped us in a big way, and that created the interest in music for me. You know.
And Art, what's your favourite childhood memory?
I suppose my favourite childhood memory surely would have to be, you know, on the farm. You know, when I was a kid, the good times, the long sunny summers, and, you know, great times with horses and animals and dogs and pets on the farm, and, you know, living there with my family. It was a great childhood.
And who inspired you to become an entertainer?
I suppose, you know, when you look at Elvis Presley, he inspired so many people, didn't he? You know, but even before that, I was interested in singing. There was a guy called Brooke Benton. He sang a song called the Boll Weevil Song. I don't know if you remember that or not, but some people would. He was a great inspiration to me. And of course, later then, Brendan Boyer, you know, became the man that we all wanted to try and be like, I suppose, in the showband world.
And did you always want to be an entertainer?
I think I did, actually. You know, I always had a kind of a liking for it, you know. When I was younger, maybe I thought I might have been a truck driver or a bus driver. That didn't materialise, you know.
And how did you go about putting the band together? What steps did you take from once the band was, I suppose, in your mind, and then how did you actually go about that?
Yes, well, I was lucky in as much as when I started out with the Victors, was the first professional band that I was with. The band was already formed, you know, and it was what would be called a manufactured band in today's terms, you know. It was some business people put a band together, and they put the musicians together. And Chris St. Ledger, God rest him, he has passed away since. Chris was the band leader, and he accumulated the different people that he thought would be the best for the band. And they were looking for a singer, so they came to East Cork, and that's where I came into the equation there.
And what year was that?
1963 we started with the Victors, but before that I had been singing semi-pro with a band called Pat Irwin All Stars down in East Cork, you know, and local functions and stuff like that.
And can you remember the first song you recorded?
I think the first song I recorded was one called Showbands on Parade. That was one in which I was doing impersonations of the Irish entertainment artists of the time, you know, and it was a big success. I was lucky. I hit the nail on the head with that.
That was a huge hit for you.
It was indeed, and it was something different as well, because it was regarded, I suppose you could call it a gimmick at the time, because it was impersonations of the people that everybody who were going to dances at that time were familiar with, the names like Brendan Boyer and Butch Moore and Big Tom and all those stars, you know, of that time. So it was an impersonation of those people. So I was singing about people that the general public knew about anyhow.
Art Supple, can you remember the first time you heard yourself on radio, and if so, where were you?
I think maybe the first time that I heard myself on radio, I wasn't too flattered with what I heard, because I think it's a fairly common thing, you know. You imagine your voice is one particular thing, but yet when you hear it on the radio, it may not be exactly what you were hoping for, you know.
And what did you work at before you became a professional singer?
I was working on the farm at home with my father. We were working as on a mixed farm, you know, in East Cork, doing a little bit of barley, a little bit of cattle, and a little bit of beet and stuff like that. Mixed farming, you know, that's what we would do.
And can you remember the first professional dance with the Victors? Where was it? Where did that take place?
Yes, I remember it quite clearly. It was up in Highfield Rugby Club. We played there on a Saturday night with the Victors showband, and that was our first official engagement, you know. And what an occasion that was, because we'd been rehearsing for 6 weeks non-stop from 9 to 5 every day, you know, for about 6 weeks before that. And this was the final test, going on stage, and it was wonderful. It was a great occasion.
Of course, you travel all over Ireland and the UK and further afield. You must have great memories of all those times.
Touch wood, you know, for a guy that came from a farming background like myself, when I was growing up, I didn't really have much ambition of sort of seeing the world. But the music has been a vehicle that has brought me all over the place, and I'm happy to say I've enjoyed it all. It's been a tremendous trip. We've been to behind the Iron Curtain. We've been in Canada, South Africa, Germany, various places, and you see how the other people live, and it's been a great trip, all of it.
Of all the songs you recorded, Art, which three would be your favourite and why?
Well, I suppose probably the number one would be Showbands on Parade, which was the initial one that I did as a tribute to other showband singers. That would be one, because for obvious reasons it got me out there to the public as well, and when we did that on TV, it had an immediate reaction, because like I said earlier, it was a little bit gimmicky, so I suppose it attracted a little bit of attention. There was a lot of movement and a lot of characterization in it, and a little bit of acting, of course, and it was that would have been one that I was very, very happy with. Another one that we did would be the totally opposite. When the show bands were in their heyday, you always had to have what was called a showstopper, And I came up with a song called Noreen Bawn, which was an old Irish ballad about immigration and all the rest of it. And I heard the first cousin of mine singing it when I was a little kid. And I remembered it when I was from 6 years of age on. And that one, we built it into our program, and it became a huge hit for us, really did. And it was very popular, and any place we played, we always got requests to do it. That would be another one. Later then, when we did, so many different kinds of songs, a song that I love to do was one called The Young New Mexican Puppeteer. That was a great one, because a lot of philosophies in it, and a lot of nice things, and it touches on different aspects of life, I suppose, as well. So it's a kind of a deep song, although it's a pleasant showbandy type of song as well.
In a town near Albuquerque, there lived the most concerned young boy. And he said, lately I have noticed that folks don't live with peace and joy, with frowns and worries in their faces. They're lost and don't know where to go. And he said, I'll get the people straight by putting on a puppet show. Oh, the young New Mexican puppeteer, he saw the people all live in fear. He thought that maybe they'd listen to a puppet telling them what to do. He got some string and he got some wood. He did some carving and he was good. The folks came running so they could hear the young New Mexican puppeteer. First he called out young Abe Lincoln. Abe will teach them civil rights. And a king named Martin Luther, so they'd recall his peaceful fight. Old Mark Twain, his wit and wisdom, will surely show them life is fun. But he smiled with satisfaction when the Prince of Peace was done. Oh, the young New Mexican puppeteer, he saw the people all live in fear. He thought that maybe they'd listen to a puppet telling them what to do. He got some string and he got some wood. He did some carving and he was good. The folks came running so they could hear the young New Mexican puppeteer. Puppet shows were clever, and he made the people laugh. When he got across the message to walk along love's open path, so they built him his own puppet there. decked out in spotlights yellow and red. And then they wrote him up in all the papers. And this is what the story said. They said the young New Mexican puppeteer, he saw the people all live in fear. He thought that maybe they'd listen to a puppet telling them what to do. He got some string and he got some wood. He did some carving and he was good. The folks came running so they could hear the young New Mexican puppeteer. Oh, the young New Mexican puppeteer. He saw the people all live in fear. He thought that maybe they'd listen to a puppet telling them what to do. He got some string and then he got some wood. He did some carving and he was good. The folks came running so they could hear the young New Mexican puppeteer.
And at what time did you normally go on stage back in those days? At what time did you normally finish?
Yeah, well, going on stage was at 9 o'clock. You know, you had to be on stage at 9 o'clock, and if you weren't, you know, the proprietor would be coming along and saying, hey lads, there's people sitting out in the car park, they're wondering, are you going to start at all tonight? So we would start at 9 o'clock and we played until 2, you know, that was the normal procedure. 9 to 2 would be par for the course. That was most nights.
And what would be your favourite song that you recorded? Would you have one favourite song that you recorded?
Yeah, like I said, the Showbands on Parade would have been the one. But we did another song then earlier on, which was the first song for me to get into the top 10. There was a song called Safely in Love Again. And that was a country song written by Ned and Sue Miller. Ned Miller was the man that did From a Jack to a King. And they wrote that particular song and I recorded it. And I would venture to say that I was the first individual male showband singer to have a country song in the top 10 at that time.
Right, that was some achievement.
Well, that's the way it was then. You know, a lot of the lads were trying different kind of music, and not too many of them were doing country music in the showbands.
Were you always based in Youghal?
Yeah, well, I was not always based in Youghal, but I mean, I started out in Youghal, you know. We worked from there then when I was in Cork. And later on, I was in different places as we moved around, and things changed. I worked in Athlone with Brendan Shine's band for a while. I lived in Germany for a while, and, you know, we kicked it around here, there, and everywhere, you know.
Art, what's your most treasured possession?
I suppose my most treasured possession has to be my health and my well-being. Thanks be to God, you know, I have, you know, reasonably good health, and, you know, that stands me in good stead, and, you know, it's a thing to be treasured by everybody, I think. You
obviously love performing. It's your number one thing.
Aye. I think, you know, that it brings something out in you. I would have been a shy person myself, and when you went on stage, you forgot about the shyness, because it was like, you know, a Jekyll and Hyde situation almost. You transformed yourself to become the entertainer. And that brings out the best in people, because it challenges you. And you have to up the ante every time, you know.
And Art, what gives you most satisfaction in life?
I think perhaps, you know, when you're able to do what it is that you want to do. You know, I love to sing, I love to be on stage, and I never overlook the fact that it's always a great privilege to be able to do that, and to be in a position to do it, and to have people that will come along and hear you, and also to be physically able to get up there and do it. You know, I think that's, you know, what more can you ask for? You're getting paid to do something that you love to do.
Art Supple, what has been the highlight or the highlights of your career to date?
Well, apart from family and the obvious things, I suppose, as far as the musical side of it is concerned, I remember we went to Canada, I think it was about 1966, and that was the beginning of the showband thing. We were the first showband to play in this particular ballroom in Locarno Ballroom in Danforth Avenue in Toronto. And we were the first showband to go there. And on the night that we went on stage, there was already an orchestra playing, and they were sitting down, and they were beautiful musicians, perfect band, nothing wrong, everything was right. But then we came on and we were wearing red suits and we were jumping about the place, and the people just hadn't seen something like this before, and they were absolutely amazed by it. And the reaction to it was just, you know, even if I say so myself, the reaction to it was dramatic, you know. And we had people from camera crews, and we had people from television companies coming along and asking us to stay in Canada and making us offers, and, you know, there were so many good opportunities arose from it that as a show band at the time, we had to come back home because we were all family people, and we had to come back to Ireland again because that's where our work was and that's where our commitment was. But as an individual moment in time, you know, that was really a sensational moment.
A young man, barely 20, his young bride by the hand, their dreams for a new beginning set sail from Ireland. They sailed away one snowy day from their friends and families. They were bound for South Carolina and their destiny. I can still remember the way it used to be. We would listen to Daddy's stories of a land now so dear to me. He would take my mama in his arms, he'd hold her oh so close. She would smile when he'd sing to her, "You're my South Carolina rose." South Carolina rose, you're everything to me. You're the sunshine of my life, all I ever need. Will you be mine until the end of time? How I love you, South Carolina rose. It's funny, now I'm going back to that lovely isle so green, to wear this crown in that dear town that means so much to me. And I think of my great-great-granddad. I feel he's with me now. I'm so glad to be going back. The South Carolina rose, South Carolina rose, you're everything to me. You're the sunshine of my life, all I ever need. Will you be more? Carolina rose, South Carolina rose, you're everything to me. You're the sunshine of my life, all I ever need. Will you be mine until the end of time? How I love you, South Carolina rose. How I love you,
What has been the most embarrassing moment of your career to date?
There have been quite a few, I can tell.
Tell us a couple.
Well, one particular one, it wasn't funny at the time, but sport would be a great interest of mine, you know. And I played hurling with my own club, St. Edith's, for a lot of years. And I damaged an Achilles tendon, you know. But I was working with the band at the time. And the following day, literally, I had to take my crutches and go off with the band. And we were performing in Birmingham. And there was a guy in Birmingham, a lovely man, that you know, knew the style of performer that I was. And I was always, would have been regarded as an energetic type of person on stage with a lot of movement and all the rest of it. And he saw me coming along with a pair of crutches, you know, and he's kind of looking at me to know what happened. And I tried to explain to him what happened, but I had to hobble onto the stage and literally grasp the microphone and hold onto it, you know. And there I am in front of, you know, a huge crowd, big audience, and they're expecting me to jump around all over the place. And I was lucky to be able to continue standing.
Oh my God.
That was one moment that was quite embarrassing and awkward. Another one was an occasion, also strangely enough, in England as well. We were playing in the Galtymore in Cricklewood, which was a huge venue at the time, on a Saturday night. And our manager had great, you know, vision, and he had great hopes for us. And there was a guy called Pat Campbell, who was a huge DJ at that time in Radio Luxembourg. And our manager invited him to come along and hear the band. And he thought that if he heard the band, that this would clinch the deal and that we would be stars overnight.
Right.
So he brought along Pat Campbell. He wined him and dined him and brought him in at the appropriate time when the thing was really, you know, going well inside the dance hall. And we were on stage, and he arrived with Pat Campbell, and they're sitting down looking at us, and they settled into their seats, and we tear into it on stage. And unfortunately, the drummer bashed one of the cymbals, and the cymbal fell. Not like today, you know, you didn't have sound engineers and crews out there to take care of your every move. You did it from the stage yourself. Right. But the cymbal fell on the mains lead, which was beside the cymbal, and severed, and the whole place went dead. The lights, the sound, everything gone. So our big moment to impress Pat Campbell was gone out the window. That was an embarrassing situation.
That didn't deter you. That didn't deter you. You went on to become a huge star, and still performing, of course. What are the three things you can't live without, Art?
I suppose, you know, as we said earlier on, you can't live without being in good form, you know, and being in good health. And I think that's you know, that has to be one, you know. The second one has to be the support you get from your family. If you don't have that, you can't go out there and do it with a free will and without the ability to be thinking about things you should be doing someplace else. So, you know, that's very, very important. And I suppose the third one has to be a little bit of talent, whatever that talent might be. Some people have a great talent as regards singing. More people have regards talent as regards acting, you know. Others have that to entertain people. So I suppose, you know, all of those things come into play. And if you're lucky enough to have some one of those little bits of talent, it helps to make life a little bit easier for you.
And Art, have you ever passed on a song only to find it became a hit for somebody else?
Yes, I did. May Higgins wrote a song called Sweet Youghal Bay, you know, which was, of course, a local song from Youghal. And she asked me to record it at the time. And for some strange reason, I think maybe we had our heads in a different place at the time rather than thinking of local songs, you know, and we were thinking about more Americanized kind of music and, you know, further afield kind of stuff. And I thought Sweet Youghal Bay was a little bit too localized and too parochial, and I didn't record it. But Glenn Curtin, God rest him, did a fabulous version of the song, and it was a big hit for Glenn Curtin.
And Art, if you had the chance to record with anybody, either past or present, who would that be?
That's a beautiful question. I think Pavarotti would be, you know, I would have loved, you know, I'm sure people might smile at that when they view what Pavarotti achieved and what people in show bands do, you know. But nevertheless, you know, stranger things have happened. He recorded with lots of different people from different genres, and, you know, he would have been, you know, what a singer, what a voice, what a talent, you know. I would have loved to have been able to record with him.
And after going down through the years, there must have been lots of crazy fan moments. Can you tell us any couple that stand in your mind?
Well, I suppose there are plenty, but you know, you had people that would follow you from all over the place. And one particular thing that happened to us, we were playing literally behind the Iron Curtain, and the weather was so cold, you know,
Yeah.
and we were playing in this huge, huge arena. It was actually a kind of more like a barn than an arena, and I don't mean that in a derogative way, but it was just a huge, huge space, and we were playing, and the cold was incredible, you know, and some of the guys in the band, they were wearing shorts. I was lucky enough, I had a suit on me, so I was suitably attired for it. But the people that came in were Russian people, and they had never before seen a band live on stage, and they didn't know how they should react to what we were doing, you know, and they didn't even know what was expected of them. But they listened to us for a while, and I remember eventually saying, how am I going to break through this particular barrier, you know? So eventually I just said, oh, maybe if we sway from side to side, everybody can understand that. So I did a song called When We Were Young, you know, and I got all the people swaying from side to side. And from that moment on, they bought into what we were doing because they realized that it was for their enjoyment, you know, and that they didn't have to start to stand off from us, that we wanted them to join in and become a part of what we were doing. That was a big moment to find that people, dare I say, became fans of the band, you know, within minutes of we starting to play. And they were absolutely in love with the idea that they could become a part of what we were doing. And I think that's very important in show business generally, to bring the audience with you, because you don't want to alienate them and keep them sitting at a distance and start to do your own thing, because I'm sure at times we can get a bit carried away with our own importance and think that what we're doing is the end of the be end and end all of everything. But if you can include the audience, I think that's very important.
And Art, do you have any pre-show rituals that you go through before you go on stage?
Not particularly, but one that I like to do is, you know, it isn't that I'm go into a situation or try to get into a zone, but I do think that you have to kind of warm yourself up and wake up before you go on stage, you know, because sometimes if your mind is in a different place, and if you walk on stage and if your mind is still in the wrong place, you know, then you can't hit the stage running, you know. I remember Buddy Rich played, the drummer, he played here in the Opera House in Cork years and years ago. And before Buddy Rich went on stage, he was backstage playing for about half an hour to warm up. So when he came on stage, he came on at 100 miles an hour, you know. And I think that's important. When you come on stage, you don't need to be there warming up in front of the people for a while, because sometimes they might lose interest. So I feel that when you come on stage, you have to hit the stage running, you know, and be there at top speed. So I like to physically warm up, do a bit of kind of skipping or jumping around or a little bit of dancing or whatever it might be, just to physically loosen yourself up.
Art, what piece of advice were you given, either growing up or when you started in the music business, that you actually followed?
I think one bit of advice that I followed was one that I got from my father, you know, and his philosophy in life was keep a cool head, you know. In other words, have a presence of mind about you, you know. And it's so easy in show business in particular, because there are so many attractions coming in from all angles. You have cameras, you have lights, you have people, you have crowds, you have music, you have noise, you have all the rest of it. You have to try and keep a presence of mind and keep your own wits about you and stay cool, you know. Even if you appear to have the adrenaline pumping, you still have to be thinking clearly, you know. And I think it's very important for anybody in the business that they keep their own identity and keep their own thoughts, you know, and just pursue what they want to do themselves.
This is the sad, sad story of a lovely young Irish girl named Noreen Vaughan. Her simple, happy life at home in Ireland, her emigration to America, and her return after a number of years to a lonely grave in Tirconnan. There's a glen in old Tirconnan. There's a cottage in that glen where once dwelt the fairest maiden that inspire the hearts of men. She was handsome, hale and hearty, shy and graceful as the fawn. All the neighbors loved that widow's handsome daughter, Noreen Vaughan. day there came a letter with her passage paid to go to the land where the Missouri and the Mississippi flow. Very soon she had all things ready, and then standing at her door, that poor broken-hearted mother parted with her Noreen born. Many years that widow waited, till one morning to her door came a tender-hearted female. Costly were the clothes that she wore, saying, "Mother, don't you know me? Sure, I've only caught a cold, but two scarlet spots appearing on her cheeks, their story told." There's a graveyard in Tierconnell where the flowers wildly wave. There's a broken-hearted mother kneeling o'er a lonely grave. Ah, my Noreen, she is saying, "'Tis so lonely since you've gone. 'Twas the curse of emigration that brought you here, my Noreen born. So fair youths and tender females, ponder well before you go from your humble homes in Erin. What's beyond you'll never know. What is gold and what is silver when your health and strength are gone? When you speak of emigration, won't you think of Noreen Bond?
And Art, if you weren't a Showband star, what career would you have followed?
Well, now you're asking me a nice one there. What I would have loved to have been was sport. You know, I would have loved it, like Australian rules, football, you know, something like that. Tennis maybe, although I've never actually played tennis. But, you know, isn't it great when you look at these professional sports people, apart from the money they make? It's a great lifestyle as well, you know. I would have loved to have been in sport.
Is there anything that you don't like about being in the spotlight?
Yes, you know, I'll tell you, sometimes in the spotlight, you know, you have people that ask you, I'm not talking about your questions because they're excellent, but you people that ask you questions that are of a personal nature. And I've always maintained that if I'm looking at an artist on stage, I want to see what that artist is doing on stage, and I'm not interested in what they do in their private lives, because it's not their private lives that made them the star that they are. You know, if you look at Elton John or Elvis Presley or Tom Jones or anybody, you want to see the person who is the singer. You see him on stage, referred to Pavarotti earlier on, you know. Irrespective of what kind of a person they are, what I would like to see is the person performing. That's what I want, that's what I go to see, that's all I'm interested in. And sometimes you have people asking questions about your personal life or what happens in the background. I can't get where that's coming from, because that has nothing to do with the actual artists themselves, I think.
Which are the most requested songs at your shows? Which songs do you get asked to sing the most?
Strangely enough, again, you know, the one in which I do the impersonations of different singers, you know, that one seems to have great appeal to the people, because there's a little bit of fun in it, and it's light-hearted, you know, and you're paying tribute to a lot of different singers. And I suppose even if people aren't particularly interested in what I'm doing, they might like my impersonations of somebody else. So that's always a very that's a big seller for us.
And your favourite place that you've visited, or to visit, and maybe you haven't visited yet, but what would be your favourite place?
I think maybe, you know, the nicest place I've been to probably is Fiji, you know, the island Fiji. You know, there are so many different islands there, but, you know, Fiji is just a wonderful place. Beautiful, beautiful countryside. Lovely. The people were excellent there as well, you know. That was a lovely place to visit, you know.
The best compliment you ever received?
Oh, that's a nice one to ask me. I really couldn't say, you know.
Lots of them, I suppose, down through the years.
Well, you know, if you have people saying, well done, you know, in itself, I think that's a good thing, you know, because people say to you at the end of a night, when you're not too sure of how the thing has gone, somebody will come along and say, well done, you know, you worked well, and that was okay. That's an everlasting compliment, because it isn't idle flattery, it's just somebody appreciating the fact that you've done to the best of your ability what it is you're there to do. And hopefully that's what we do.
What's your favourite animal and why?
Well, look, I think everybody likes dogs, you know, and I like dogs. We had Dalmatians for a long time ourselves, and we had them as pups, and they're just wonderful creatures, and they're lovely, cuddly, funny little fellas, and, you know, they're nice pets as well, you know. I love dogs.
It's late and she's waiting, and I know I should go home, but every time I start to leave, they play another song. Then someone buys another round, and wherever drinks are free, what's made Milwaukee famous has made a fool out of me. Babies beg me not to go so many times before. She says love and happiness can't live behind those swinging doors. Now she's gone and I'm to blame. Too late I finally see what's made Milwaukee famous has made a loser out of me. Babies beg me not to go so many times before. She says love and happiness can't live behind those swinging doors. Now she's gone and I'm to blame. Too late I finally see what's made Milwaukee famous has made a loser out of me. What's made Milwaukee famous has made a loser out of me.
The one thing that you're scared to do on stage or off stage?
Well, the one thing that everybody is scared to do on stage is make a complete fool of themselves. And you're always worried about it, because no matter when you go on stage or whatever audience you're playing for, I don't think any musician in his sane senses or in her sane senses will take the audience for granted. So you're always hoping that what you're doing is good enough for that particular audience. Might have been good enough last night, and it might be good enough tomorrow night, but is it good enough just now for the people that have paid their money to come in to hear me? So you're always very conscious of entertaining that person down there. You know, they're the most important people in your lives for that particular moment. Worry about tomorrow when tomorrow comes. Yesterday's too late, but for the people that are sitting in front of you, your job is entertain that person here and now.
Art Supple, when you're not on the road, do you have hobbies?
Yeah, I'm, you know, like earlier on I was talking about sport, and I love the old game of hurling, you know, and we have a great old hurling club at home, St. Edith's, and I played with him for many years. Too many years, I would imagine a lot of people would have said, but I enjoyed it, you know. And I hurled with a club down in Kilkenny as well, Castlecomer. We played senior hurling down there with them for a number of years. I love that. And also I like listening to music, you know, and all the things that are good about country life, you know. I live near Red Barn. It's a beautiful, beautiful beach, and, you know, you don't have to go to Fiji to have a beautiful sandy beach like you have down in Red Barn, and when the summer comes, it's a great place to be. Go for an old swim, go for a jog along the beach, and, you know, what more can you ask for?
And what's your star sign?
My star sign, 21st of December is my birthday, so I'm in between two. Sagittarius would be more or less my star sign.
Right.
I don't put an awful lot of faith in it, or I don't put an awful lot of stock in it. I just regard it as my star sign, and that's it, you know.
And your favourite colour?
My favourite colour would be green. Green.
Why?
Colour of my own hurling club at home, St. Edith's, green and white.
And your favourite item of clothing?
My favourite item of clothing? I suppose a suit, you know. I like to wear a suit when I can, you know.
Right.
And I like the opportunity to wear a suit, you know. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to wear one today.
Going back to the Victors and the Showband time, can you remember the last date you played professionally, and where was it?
No, that's a good question. I can't actually remember the last date, strangely enough, because when I finished with the Victors here, we went and I lived in Germany for a while, and I worked there as the Victors as well. So
right.
Even though we had a different personnel in the band at that time, you know, we played over there, and we played in, you know, the American bases, and we played in a lot of civilian clubs as well. We played in the Topper Club in Frankfurt, which was a huge club at the time, and that was one of the last places we would have played, and was a place that had Tom Jones and a lot of other international artists were playing there around about that time. And it was a great challenge to go up there with a show band and to be able to do what we would do at home and every place else, and let the people see what show bands were all about. And that was a great challenge, and that would be it would be a good happy memory playing there, you know.
But now the last ember of my love is dying for her. Promises spoken were easily broken, and I can't recall what they were. In my darkest hour you came like a shower and left me a rainbow that day. You lifted the curtain and let out the hurtin', and that's when I heard my heart say, oh well, I'm safely in love again, building my dreams again. This time my dreams will all come true, because I'm safely in love again. I'll never cry again. This time I fell in love with you. From May till September was just like December. I learned what a cold world could be. When a beautiful stranger saw my heart in danger and said she was looking for me. I thought it was kindness, but learned it was blindness, for soon it was plain I could see that some great arranger said you were the stranger to show me what true love can be. And now I'm safely in love again, building my dreams again. This time my dreams will all come true, because I'm safely in love again. I'll never cry again. This time I fell in love with you.
I suppose back then the roads obviously weren't great, and there were lots and lots of show bands on the road on a nightly basis. Used you all meet up in certain places throughout the country for tea, or would you meet each other going back home at the end of the night?
Yeah, it wouldn't have been something that was even organised, you know. We didn't have the luxury of the mobile phones at that time. But there were a few places in Dublin that we would get together, you know, and the Night Bite was one of them. Was a little place where you just went in and literally had a cup of tea and maybe a sandwich or something like that. And you'd meet some of the bands coming from the north of Ireland, the Platinum and Johnny Quigley Showband and people. And you know, the strange thing about it, Hugh, we would be coming back to Cork from Dublin, and you'd meet this band from the north of Ireland. We'd set into a bandwagon, we'd coming home and say, God, these guys are going all the way back up to Belfast. We would have been going just as far coming down to Cork, but we didn't take any notice of it. I think we had, you know, 6 or 7, 8 guys in the band at the time, and we were all like-minded people, and we didn't mind it. You know, we enjoyed the travel, and I loved the travel. I absolutely loved it, and I still do. And we never minded about the distances of the journey or the roads. Recently, I looked at a map with my son, and I realised that possibly every road in Ireland I had either crossed over it or touched on it at some stage during the Showband era. So, you know, it was just one of these things that you took in your stride, you know.
And Art, you continue to perform up to the present day. What has been the, you know, the ingredient of your success? What do you think really kept you going all these years and to become a huge success? Well,
it might be a bit egotistical to say, you know, but in answering your question, I suppose just the joy of being able to perform, you know. And I think that's a genuine thing, and I think it comes across. When you're on stage and you're having fun, the people out there, they sense it, you know, and the people that come in, and they have their own worries and their own cares, and they come in and they want to be entertained, and they look up at the stage and they realise, I do believe that the people sense and realise that the person on stage is having fun themselves. And I think that's a very, very important part of it. There's no point in being up there with a big long face on you. If you're unhappy, get a different job, you know.
Right.
But if you're up there to entertain people, entertain them, you know. And I've always enjoyed that, and I get a great kick out of it. I love being on stage, like I said, and I love entertaining people. And I think it's a vital ingredient is that you're happy about what you do, because if you're not, the people out there will sense it, and it's false, you know. It's not a true reflection of what's actually happening. But if you're happy and you're enjoying themselves, I think it radiates a little bit of goodwill and, you know, good feeling to people.
And finally, Art, what advice would you give to new people starting off in the entertainment business today?
Well, I suppose I wouldn't be, you know, a great person for handing out advice, and I don't like to put myself in that kind of a pedestal. But if somebody came along to me and asked me for individual advice, I would have to advise them on their own individual talent and on their own individual background. You know, and it's very hard to generalize and throw something out and say that this holds good for everybody, because what's good for Hugh O'Brien may not be good for Art Supple, and vice versa. So I think if somebody were to come along and ask me for advice, I would look at them and I'd see their background, I would see what kind of a mentality they had. What ability they had would also be very important, even though they tell you that it's 98% perspiration and 2% inspiration. But nevertheless, I think you would have to regard each individual individually, you know, if they ask you for advice, because what's good for one person isn't necessarily good for another.
Well, Showband legend Art Supple, thank you very much for taking the time to join us on the show today, and continued success to you.
Thank you, Hugh. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I would like to wish you all the best with your great work on television. And you've been given, you know, a great shop window to so many artists down through the years. It's a pleasure to be here with you, and I wish you continued success. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Art.
Last night a thought came to me as I sat and watched TV. If our Showband stars were pupils, this is what we'd see. Ibrahim, up to the microphone, says that come what may, although he is a little late, now he's come back to stay. future George. Just late for school once more. But sure as I'm your Georgie Podgy, I won't be late anymore. This next boy drives me crazy because he speaks so slow. If he doesn't speak a little faster, I guess he'll have to go. I guess I'm lazy, and so would you, if all the low notes were in your boots. About adventure or accident. So we asked this boy with a gleam in his eye for his funny incident. Oh, this aching, breaking back of mine is very plainly due to the fact that I can sit down right just like I used to do. 'Cause I told a funny story to the boy next door. My brother Ben put me on his knee and made my sore. If you can't reach this microphone, son, step up on this box. Now, would you ever tell me why you're walking in your socks? And now it's time to leave you, as we've no more boys to meet. So slán live, and as usual, we divide up all the sweets.
Oh, they haven't changed at all. We still love them one and all. Oh, the showband on the corners just lost
If you love somebody enough,
You'll follow wherever they go.
that's how I got to Memphis.
That's how I got to Memphis.
If you love somebody enough,
Go where your heart wants to go.
that's how I got to Memphis.
That's how I got to Memphis.
I know if you'd seen her, you'd tell me, 'cause you are my friend.
I've got to find her and find out the trouble she's in.
If you tell me that she's not here,
I'll follow the trail of her tears.
that's how I got to Memphis.
That's how I got to Memphis.
She would get mad and she used to say,
She'd come back to Memphis someday.
that's how I got to Memphis. That's how I got to Memphis. Oh, I've got to find her and tell her that I love her so.
I'll never rest till I find out why she had to go.
I haven't eaten a bite
or slept for 3 days and nights.
That's how I got to Memphis.
That's how I got to Memphis.
So thank you for your...
The Life and Times of Irish Showband legend Art Supple, sponsored by the 5 Mile Inn Bar and Restaurant, 5 Mile Bridge, Kinsale Road, County Cork.